What's going on, guys? Welcome to the Movie Dive. Today we're going to be doing our top 7 worst films of 2024. Why 7? 10 is too much. 5 is too little. 7 just seems like the right number. Hopefully you guys agree with these picks. If you don't, of course, let me know in the comments. Let's get to it. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Movie Dive. Today, of course, we're diving into our least favorite films of the year. Why 7? I don't know. 10's too much. 5's too little. It was a lot easier to make the worst list for me than it was to make the best list.
I mean, I feel like with the writer's strike and everything else that happened in terms of like pushing like release dates out, I think there's still like some effects from COVID as well. But especially after last year, like looking at my last year's list and then looking at this year's, I know there's a lot that still hasn't been like widely released and stuff that just came out like Nosferatu, but the floor is lower this year and the ceiling's lower as well. So,
but yeah, then we can kick it off. My number 7 least favorite film of the year. This is kind of an obvious one. I don't think it's very controversial. Is going to be Godzilla versus Kong. I don't know. Some people enjoy it because it is a bombastic movie. I had no fun with it. I had fun with the previous ones they did. I thought those were like the perfect amount of blockbuster meets stupidity. This one was just full stupidity. I know everyone has seen the clip of King God, one of the two, using a baby to fight other people. That was over the top for me. So my number 7 least favorite film of the year is Godzilla versus Kong.
oh wait, isn't it like Godzilla X Kong Rise of something? Rise of Skywalker?
Godzilla X Kong, the New Empire. Who the hell knows?
My 7th least favorite of the year is Trap. So this was the M. Night Shyamalan concert movie that he shot. I think that if they just not used ChatGPT for the dialogue and not had M. Night's daughter as a stand-in for Lady Gaga for like 70% of the movie and actually just focused in on the tension that made M. Night's early movies so much better, this could have been really fun. I felt dumber after watching it. I was trapped in my own mind after this one, so that's my number 7.
So coming in at number 6 for my least favorite film of the year, hell yeah, Gladiator 2. I hope this is a controversial pick because I completely hated this movie. The more time passes, the least I like it. I guess there's redeemable qualities when it comes to some of the action scenes, but then there's other moments that just dumb it down so much. If it wasn't for it being called Gladiator 2, it would not be nearly as bad as it is. But guess what? That's the fact, is it is Gladiator 2. You have that same director. The actors that you have in this movie, no reason it should be as bad as it is, and the CGI is god-awful. So my number 6 for least favorite of the year is Gladiator 2.
My number 6 is Fall Guy. So I know a lot of people really like this, and
Me too.
I think, exactly, see. I think a lot of people saw it as like a love language to movie making, and like especially, the stuntman and what that has meant to movies throughout history. I just really hate the direction style and the comedy style. It just felt like so Deadpool and like Marvel SNL kind of winking humor, but on acid and ADHD.
All right, so number 5. All right. Oh boy. So my number 5 least favorite of the year, Megalopolis. Hey, fuck this movie. We have 2 very famous directors on this list who have come out with terrible films. Of course, this one, Francis Ford Coppola, it's a little more expected because he's been making bad films for quite a long time now. I found myself in the movie theater just wondering what the hell was going on, and every actor just really seemed like they were in a satire scary movie, as in like Scary Movie 1 and 2 by the Wayans brothers. It felt like they're acting in that, or it felt like they got costumes at like drama club and they put them on. So that is Megalopolis. It is way too long. I don't remember anything that really was happening. I just remember really hoping it would end towards the end, which kind of sucks because you always hate when passion projects, are this bad. But number 5 is Megalopolis.
I'm going to cheat. I'm going to put 2 movies together that I'm calling the Cougar Duo. It is The Idea of You and A Family Affair. I think the biggest egregious one of those 2 is probably The Idea of You, with Anne Hathaway as some teenage girl's mum who falls in love with a Harry Styles type from One Direction. Between this and then obviously Baby Girl just came out. I haven't seen that yet, but I just feel like there's this weird cougar moment. I mean, Anne Hathaway's pretty and all, but even that can't, salvage pretty terrible plot and really bad dialogue.
Coming in at my fourth least favorite film of the year, that's going to be Joker 2, an abomination of a movie. I know that when this was first announced, it was going to be coming out. They said it was going to be a musical. I was one of the people defending it, so I was like, no. If it's Joaquin Phoenix and Todd Phillips, they're not going to make a musical for no reason. They have a reason behind making it, especially because they didn't want to make a Joker 2. I was wrong. They had no reason behind making it. The songs didn't even make sense. I don't remember any of the songs. I don't even think the songs were about what was going on in the movie. And whenever something interesting would happen, they would cut it off by a non-catchy song. Just so boring. You can't even watch it. It's just, even Joaquin Phoenix probably completely hates this movie. So Joker 2 is my fourth least favorite film of the year.
My number 4 is Atlas. This is also a subgenre that I'm going to call the money laundering subgenre, which is 100 million plus budgeted movies that look terrible and just have big name stars in it. This is with Jennifer Lopez. Here is the log line. Brilliant counterterrorism analyst with a deep distrust of AI discovers it might be her only hope. Her only hope of AI saving her is because this script was written by AI. It is one of the worst movies I've ever seen. You forget it as soon as you finish watching it. There's better movies above this in terms of my expectations going in that was worse. But in terms of just like pound for pound worst movie you can ever watch, this is pretty high.
So coming in at number 3, this one I guess is the most low-hanging fruit, but you can watch this and have a lot of fun with it. That's going to be Madam Web. That's the only reason it's not number 1 or number 2. What hasn't been talked about Madam Web? We all know how bad this is, which has paved the way for Craven the Manhunter, whatever that's called. And that one also bombed badly at the box office. These movies are just a pile of shit. Again, I think these movies in the future, a lot of people are going to have gatherings and be drunk and watch them and have a good time. That's the only reason. Again, it's not number 2 or number 1. However, this movie's terrible. The actors have no idea what's even going on. And so, yeah, number 3, we have Madam Web.
My number 3 is Emilia Perez. I know this is getting a lot of Oscar hype. I just really despise this movie. It's not because it's a musical. It's not because it's a crime thriller. It's not because it's about a trans story or anything like that. It's the amalgamation of all those things make it the worst kind of movie, which is it thinks it's something it's not. It's got a really interesting plot at its heart. I mean, someone in the cartel, like a leader in the cartel who wants to transition into a woman after years of feeling repressed. Go down that route. That's great. That sounds like a really interesting thriller. Don't set it to a musical. Don't have a French person make it from their perspective when it's supposed to be set in Mexico. Selena Gomez, I don't know how she's getting any kind of award nomination. She's just acting like she's in a music video. I just think this is such a huge disappointment because going into it, I thought it was going to be really promising. In terms of just a straight disappointment, Emilia Perez makes it number 3 on my list.
My number 2 least favorite film of the year is going to be Trapped. There's no way someone can truly like this movie. I don't see the redeeming qualities of it. I hated this movie. You don't have the excuse of saying that the acting was bad on purpose. I'm not going to make a terrible movie and be like, it's terrible on purpose. It's like, no, it's just terrible. I don't get the facial expressions going on in it. And then the twist of the movie doesn't make sense either. If you do call it a twist, M. Night comes up with the best simple premises for thrillers. He just puts humans in them that don't act like they're human and just take you out of the movie. My number 2 for least favorite of the year is Trapped. And like you said, it is a concert movie.
Also hilarious. You're calling it Trapped when it's called Trap. My number 2 is a movie called Uglies. This is basically Divergent with the twist of Devil Wears Prada, where dystopian future and if you're ugly, you die. Ironically, it's called Uglies, and the main cast, who apparently is supposed to be ugly, all look like supermodels. I'm not a young adult novel person, obviously. Like Hunger Games, that wasn't really my bag, but I just had to put this on because this was one of the most brain dead things I've ever seen. So yeah, number 2, Uglies.
Before we do get to number 1, we're going to do some honorable mentions for our least favorite of the year that didn't make it on the list. For me, barely not making on the list is Deadpool Wolverine. Sorry, no, it's not a good movie. Abigail, I didn't have a fun time with it. Terrifier 3, this is something I'm not watching any more Terrifiers in the theater. And then finally for honorable mentions is Spaceman, Netflix, Adam Sandler, very forgettable movie.
I'm going to also choose Spaceman. Also going to put 2 movies that kind of mirror each other, The Instigators and Wolves, and then Red One.
So then we're going to get to our number 1. So yeah, our number 1 Worst film of the year. Mine's going to be In a Violent Nature. This is just the most boring thing I've seen in a very long time. I strongly didn't want to put this as number one because it is a low budget film. However, I almost fell asleep during this film. There's some interesting kills, I guess, but 90% of the movie is truly just the killer walking and walking very slowly. And probably because I had decent expectations for it, because in some festivals it did really well. So I was expecting something good, was just bored out of my mind. So my least favorite film of the year is In a Violent Nature.
My least favorite movie of the year is Gladiator 2.
Hell yeah.
We talked about this at length. I think that, well, this is not my lowest rated. That is definitely Uglies. Going into this with the name of Gladiator attached to it, you expect a certain kind of quality. You expect a certain kind of movie, especially from Ridley Scott. And it just did not live up to even close to not just the hype that was building for itself, but attaching itself to the legacy of what Gladiator achieved. So I think that this is as big a lead balloon, wet fart movie that you could get. Almost like dirties the legacy of what Gladiator achieved over 20 years ago. So not the worst, but definitely my least favorite is Gladiator 2.
That is our least favorite movies of the year. So thanks, guys, for joining us on our least favorite films of the year. Please let us know in the comments